Hello, everyone. You are listening to the latest Flyers Talk podcast. I am Jordan Hall, and as always, I am joined by Joe Fordyce, our Flyers pre- and post-game live producer. Joe, we're going to continue our Predicting the Lineup series for 2025-26. We looked at the first, second, third, and fourth lines. You can look at that on our previous two podcasts. Now we're going to look at the three defensive pairs. So, Joe, let's get right into it. Who do you have on your first pair for the Flyers defense?
Well, I'm going to go with the easy answer and go York and Sanheim. And I'm going to go back to 2 years ago when John Tortorella said they can't go along periods of time without one of those guys on the ice. And I think that still is a truism for this team. These guys are the stable. Now, York has had some injuries, so but when he's playing, for the most part, there's some stability there, and those guys are familiar with each other. Both of them can make things happen. Sanheim, I would say, is the more defensively responsible one. But I really think this pair plays nicely off of each other. And I think with Sanheim, he's reached the point where you can play a guy that's a little more offensive minded on the other side of him and know that Sanheim is able to pick up any slack that's there, and make smart plays, veteran type plays, and also bring out the best in York as well. So I think I don't really see another pair that's possible as the first pair.
I had the same exact pair. And Joe, I really think it should be a goal for the Flyers to try to get these two going the way they were going in 2023-24, when things were going so well for those two. And they were really relied upon down the stretch, and they both battled through injury that season. So they were not fully healthy. And the Flyers really rode those two, and they played well in those circumstances. In 23-24, from March to the end of that season, so basically the final quarter of that season, Cam York was fourth in the NHL in minutes per game. Like, they really, really used him, and I thought he played well. And for various reasons, things didn't click between those two last year, and Cam York suffered an injury, and then he kind of went through it with John Tortorella, and the defensive pairs were kind of like a revolving door. But I would think it'd be great if they can get those two back together and really view them as a top pair and let them kind of carry them again.
Yeah, I agree. It's really the only known quantity that I see here in terms of the combination of them together. We talked a lot about York, and kind of maybe we don't know his full potential yet. Like, we haven't seen that. But I think the York-Sanheim pair is really the only known quantity that we have. I mean, there's not a lot of known quantities in this whole lineup, top to bottom, but I think York and Sanheim are one of the known quantities, definitely in the lineup, and for sure on the defensive pairs. I just don't see how anybody beneath them would unseat one of those two on the top pair.
And both can move the puck. Both can push it up ice with their legs. And I think that's a pretty intriguing thing to have on your top pair, because you don't want that top pair to consistently be playing defense all the time. Like, you want them pushing the puck up ice, creating offense, and playing in the offensive zone, so they're playing less defense. I think those two guys both have that trait, and that can work really well together. I don't think you always need the offensive guy and the defensive guy to balance each other out. Sometimes it's great to have two guys that are kind of offensively driven that can really put pressure on the other team.
Well, and quite frankly, I think what the Flyers have struggled with recently is moving the puck out of their own zone. And these two guys both can do that. So it's not just about – people always think when they think puck moving, they think offensively minded defensemen. Puck moving can also mean getting it out of harm's way. And the Flyers have had a lot of issues doing that over the last few seasons. And I think these two are the best guys at doing that too.
I really think a focus needs to be getting Cam York back into a role that he should be playing in. We've talked about it ad nauseum, about getting him back on the power play and really viewing him as a foundation piece, a guy that's like the key cog on defense. He wasn't viewed that way last season. He went through injuries. They got to really get back to being like, this is our guy, and let's see how he flourishes under that, if he can flourish under that.
For sure. They need to do everything they can to put York in the best possible position to succeed. Again, we've talked about the John Tortorella thing and him not seeing eye to eye, but due to that, I don't believe York has been in the best position to succeed for, I would say, a good part of the last 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I think that all should change, and hopefully it does. And I think this would make for a pretty dynamic top pair if so.
Joe, I'm really curious for your second pair. I will admit, I actually did contemplate a little bit having Nick Seeler on my first pair. He played so well alongside Travis Sanheim at the end of last season. I know it was a small sample size and they were just trying things, but he opened my eyes a little bit. I did think about that, but I ended up having him on my second pair. Who do you have for those two players?
So I went a little different here. I have Drysdale, which I'm guessing you have as well, but then I have Emil Andre.
Okay.
I think Andre showed some real promise last year. He struggled with an injury, so take that out of the equation. I really liked his willingness to go back and get the puck out of the hard areas, despite the fact that he's not the biggest guy in the world. But his willingness to take a hit to make a play, I think would work well alongside Drysdale, because Drysdale's the kind of guy, again, like we talked about with York, a good puck-carrying defenseman. And if Andre can play well behind his own net and get the puck up ice to Drysdale, I think that makes for a pretty good pair. Drysdale obviously needs to improve defensively. We've talked about that a lot. Andre's started to show some inexperience, I would think, late last season, but overall, I think he really proved last year that he can be a defenseman in this league. And so I'm going to elevate him to the second pair. I'm expecting big things out of him in training camp, and I think he can get himself to the second pair.
I had something similar. I had Emil Andre actually also on my second pair, and I have him with Nick Seeler. I know it's not ideal. They're both lefty shot defensemen, but Seeler has played left and right in his career. Andre even has done that a little bit too in his brief time here with the Flyers so far. A big reason I did this because I just didn't love Seeler and Drysdale together. I think that's something they tried. They really wanted to develop. I think they really were hoping that Seeler and Drysdale would be the Seeler Walker that worked so well in 23-24 before the Flyers moved Walker to the Avalanche. I just didn't like it. I think Drysdale impacted Seeler a little bit defensively. I think Seeler suffered a little bit in his defensive numbers. And that's not just picking on Drysdale. I just don't think it worked the way they had hoped. So I didn't want to go that route. And I think Emil Andre has just really opened my eyes. I think he's gritty. He plays with confidence. He's got some guts to him. And I think his puck moving abilities will really complement Nick Seeler, and Nick Seeler would really complement him in the way that he plays defense and really keeps the puck out of his net. I think Nick Seeler is like Mr. Defenseman. Like, he just does all the right things to make sure the puck's not going into his net. So I would be really intrigued to see Emil Andre and Nick Seeler together, Joe.
Yeah, that's a good one. I really like, Seeler, he is a guy that's just going to do whatever this team asks. And it's really been invaluable what he's brought to this team and what a find it is. And those are some of the reasons I have him on my third pair, which I'll explain shortly. But yeah, and as far as Andre, I think we're on the same page here. We saw a lot. I remember in the preseason last year thinking that, and then when he got the opportunity in the regular season, I really thought that he seized it. Of course, he had to deal with an injury, but injuries aside, let's hope that's not the case this year. I think he can really, really make a name for himself in this league and with this team for sure.
Yeah, he's undersized. He's not very tall, but he plays like he's big. And that's exciting to see. Like, he's not one-dimensional where you think he's going to be all offense. He does see the ice exceptionally well. He makes some daring plays at time to time. Like, he's not going to just rim it up the wall. He'll try to make a play. But he can play some defense too. And
it's not a guy like his stature. You don't look at him and say, oh, well, that's definitely a guy that's going to go battle it out behind the net. but he is. When you watch him play, he will get to those areas and he'll battle anybody, any size for the puck. And the Flyers need they need toughness in their own end. And I think Andre brings that, again, despite the size.
Towards the beginning of last season, he got a look up here because of some injuries and performance things, and really opened some eyes with Rasmus Ristolainen. Everyone thought, wow, this could be a second pair here with Andre and Ristolainen. And then Andre eventually went back down. The Flyers wanted him to work on some things. They got healthier up here. I think fans were always calling for Andre to come back up. Like, why is he not here? Why is he not here? Like, get Emil Andre up here. So I would love to see him in a full season, Joe. Obviously he's going to have to compete. He might have to get some help in terms of, Ristolainen obviously isn't healthy, and we don't anticipate he'll be ready for the start of the season. But you got to take advantage of those moments when guys aren't, available. And I would just really be so intrigued to see what Emil Andre could do in a full season in the NHL.
Yeah, and I think this year it's kind of transitioned from this is a guy that might get a shot or should get a little bit of a shot to a guy that's expected now to be in part of the defense corps. I think it is. And I think last year was what made it that way. So I'd be stunned if he was not in the mix here on the regular.
I really think the management will be in Rick Tockett's ear about this guy and telling him, hey, we think this guy's really good. He's really impressed us. He's climbed from Sweden, played professionally over there. He was, he's been very good here so far, and we think he's ready for the next step. And I think Rick Tockett's going to learn about him pretty quickly. Tortorella even liked him very quickly. I think he liked the way that Andre played with some moxie and was willing to make plays and take a hit to make a play. And that definitely impressed Tortorella. So I have a feeling this is a player that's going to rub off on Tocchet a little bit here.
Yeah, and in terms of the Drysdale part of this, we've talked a lot about it. We've seen the glimpses. Nobody's saying the glimpses aren't there. The glimpses just need to become a little more regular. And they don't always need to be. Again, I feel like we kind of get off on these tangents where we start to criticize John Tortorella, but there were times where I felt like maybe Drysdale played a little bit like he was afraid to make a mistake. And I think that may have had to do with the coach and the ups and downs with the coach. I'm not saying Rick Tockett's not going to coach Drysdale hard, but I think it's a different style. And I think if you're going to get the best out of Drysdale, this is the coach that's going to get it from him.
I think this is such a pivotal year for Drysdale because, one, he's in a contract year, so he'll be doing a new contract after this season. So I think that's always a huge thing in terms of whether he's a part of the long-term future or where the Flyers value him long-term. And then also, Joe, I think there's the old adage that you can only have so many smaller defensemen, and Cam York's on the smaller side. He's locked up now long-term. Emil Andre is on the smaller side, and I think really kind of nipping at the heels of Drysdale. So that's three smaller defensemen right there that I think the Flyers eventually are going to have to see if they can play all three at the same time or if one's going to beat out the other. And I really think there's almost like a small inner competition maybe between Emil Andre and Jamie Drysdale, which could be really intriguing, especially if they're on the same pair, Joe, as you mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that. And they could be two key pieces to this core going forward, and be interested to see individually how each play, but together as I have them here in a pair, very intriguing to see how they play off one another.
Yeah. Joe, your third pair, we know Sealer's on it. Who do you have playing with him?
So Sealer and Juleson, it's Juleson, right?
I think it's Noah Juleson.
So yep. Juleson played for Talk. He knows him well. I think when you look at the Flyers, there may not be a more responsible player and a better teammate than Nick Sealer. And to me, I think when you're bringing in a new guy and you're trying to work him in, we don't really know what the potential for Juleson is. So I'm gonna start him playing with Sealer because I feel like when all else fails, Sealer will be there. And that's the way I approach that pair, because I'm just going to go out on a limb and guess that Rick Tocchet had something to do with Noah Juleson being here, having coached him before. So you definitely want to put him in a spot early to succeed. And I think with Sealer is a good way for that to happen.
And Yuleson's got really a leg up on everybody because he's played under Tocchet very recently in Vancouver and was on a very good Vancouver team a couple of years ago where he played a significant role, I would say, in their defense. I think the big thing for him is, can he stay healthy? I know he's battled some injury in Vancouver and has kind of been a tweener a little bit of coming into that out of the lineup or being that reliable sixth defenseman. But I think he's got a real shot to compete for playing time if he's healthy. So, Joe, I like that pair. And I think that would be a real reliable third pair with size, with physicality. I think Sealer would probably enjoy playing next to him. I just think there's so much competition here on that third pair. I have Igor Zamula and Jamie Drysdale. It's not a perfect pair in my mind. It's not ideal, but it is a lefty-righty shot together, which I think helps. And maybe this takes a little pressure off of Drysdale, kind of allows him just to play a role. He doesn't have to be a top four guy where he's, being tasked with playing like the second or third most minutes among the defense. And then Zamula, I think, as we all know, another huge year for him to prove that he can stick. That's kind of my pair almost by default. But I do think, Joe, there will be guys pushing without a doubt for a spot. Like Noah Juleson, Dennis Gilbert is another defenseman that has some NHL experience that they signed. And then there's some prospects. Hunter McDonald, I think, is going to be really itching to get up here. Helge Grans got a look last year. And Adam Yinning has been up and down here. So, but I have Igor Zamula and Drysdale, and two guys that I think really need to prove that they can play up here.
Absolutely. And the reason I don't have Zamula in mind is because I feel like too many of the guys in the Flyers system, and when I say system, I'm not just saying like minor leagues. I'm talking about guys from the top down. I think too many of guys have passed him by. I mean, Zamula's been given a number of opportunities here, particularly under John Tortorella, who trusted him with the power play and things like that. I'm not sure that he is one of the six best guys defensively to play in this core. Now he could come out and have a great camp. As you mentioned, it's a big year for him. A big time prove it camp, I would say, as you mentioned, with all the competition. So, he could come out and prove me wrong. And hey, maybe he does, because I think he's a great guy. And I really thought there was some potential there. I just feel like that has maybe waned a little bit over the last 2 years. So, but again, I think there's going to be a lot of guys in the mix. And of all things, I don't think anything is set in stone with this third pair. No,
I agree. Definitely not set in stone. And yeah, Zamula got his first full season in the NHL last year, and I think it was just a little too up and down. And the Flyers had to keep pushing him to play faster, to play quicker, to be more decisive. I think he got tougher in the defensive zone. Like I felt like there was times where he could be relied upon in the hard areas defensively, but still just seemed that needed to play with more pace. And that was something Tortorella, I know, was always in his ear about, was playing with more pace, being quicker, making snap decisions. And perhaps he, improves that this year. And maybe he feels a little more comfortable. And he's also a guy in a contract year. So
yeah, and I think that was really
hard together. It would be two guys in contract years trying to prove things.
Yeah, and I do think that that the speed of the game is the part that we noticed, particularly on the power play, when he was up top quarterbacking. The decisions and the puck movement was not quick enough, and that I think is the biggest thing, because really that half a second makes all the difference in the world in this league. Yeah. So I don't have him in here to start, but I'm certainly would not be surprised if he ends up in their opening night.
Yeah. I think that third pair could go really so many ways. We're obviously making a prediction, and we have two different ones, which tells you it really could go either way, because they're going to have guys competing. And Tockett's going to fuel competition. Like, he's a new head coach that's getting to know guys. And that's typically, hey, show me what you can do and win a job, win a roster spot. And it'll be intriguing. Even if Zamol's not in the lineup, is he an extra? Or do they try to get him down to the Phantoms? He's no longer a waivers exempt. He's no longer that player that's that young guy that can go up and down. So would a team be intrigued to even claim him? And would that signal the end of his career here? Time will tell. That we're not there yet, but they'll have some decisions to make and some good ones. I think that's what you want. You want some competition. And I don't think anything's set in stone, as you mentioned, Joe.
No, and a team in a rebuild, this is what you expect. You expect the, third and fourth forward lines and the third defense pair. You expect all of that to be a fluid situation. So it's better to have too many guys to sift through than too little. And the Flyers have known the too little. So it's good to kind of get to the point where you have guys you can go to. So, but yeah, I expect we'll see, well, beyond the top pair, I expect we'll see plenty of fluidity in the bottom four defensemen there.
Yeah, no doubt. We had two different second and third pairs. The only one we had right was, or the same, I should say, was the first pair. So, and I even wonder maybe the first pair is not even in pen yet. That might.
Well,
be
you had said you considered Sealer, and I mean that would certainly be a. Nick Sealer is a guy with the way he plays. He could play on any pair.
Yeah.
So that's a big factor. He's that defenseman where the no news is good news guy. You hear that in all different sports at certain positions. If you don't hear a guy's name, it's good. Sealer's the guy you don't hear his name unless he's fighting or sticking up with a teammate, something like that. But you don't hear his name. He's not a flashy player, but you also don't hear his name because he's not giving the puck away, things like that. So he really is solid and could play anywhere.
Yeah, a real luxury to have when you have a guy that can do basically first, second, third pair, and he is one of them. And things will really get interesting when Rasmus Ristolainen gets healthy. Again, it's just going to make things even tougher for guys like Zamula and maybe Emil Andre and maybe Jamie Drysdale to really stick. I think three guys that are bona fide, kind of what we're getting: Cam York, Travis Sanheim, Nick Sealer. I think the other three spots, I think, could be up for grabs in terms of roles and minutes and staying in the lineup, and which and they will be exciting.
They also could not be up for grabs quickly if one of these guys really steps up and shows improvement. And you would hope, above all, that guy would be Drysdale, considering what they had to give up to get him.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think
I'm thinking the team would hope that he's the guy that steps up head and shoulders and says, and really takes the choice away, doesn't give them a choice whether to play him up, play him down, take him, whatever the case may be. You'd want Drysdale to take that choice away from the team. Yeah,
I always remember when Danny Briere first talked after that shocking Cutter Gauthier trade. He mentioned Drysdale having top pair potential and that they were so excited to get a ready shot that moved the way he did. And Joe, as you mentioned earlier, we've seen glimpses of it, but just not probably consistently enough, on top of he has battled some health issues too. So, a huge year for him. And a year I think the Flyers would love to see him really grab a hold of it and be like, hey, I'm a part of this future. You're going to have to sign me to a new deal and make sure you lock me up. But we're going to have to see it first.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So a lot to look at here defensively. And we have one more position to go. Joe, goaltending. Of course, why not? Let's look at goaltending some more. So we'll look at that on our final podcast of predicting the Flyers lineup, but it's been great looking at the defensive pairs here. Joe, thank you so much. As always, our Flyers pre- and post-game live producer. A big thank you to Ben Berry, our podcast producer and guru. And Flyers fans, as always, thank you so much for listening to the latest Flyers Talk podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, please rate and listen, and we can't wait to talk to you next time.